Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio. This is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me, my co-host, Phil Emery. How you doing, Phil?
I am doing very well this Tuesday evening.
Awesome. Very good. It's a Tuesday. It's Tuesday here, too.
That's true. Even though we're far away.
Even though we're far away, it's still Tuesday. We'll see you on Tuesday. Please send your comments and questions to @Songtalk Radio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or feedback at songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to find links to resources we mention, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. And before we get to tonight's guest, we love getting comments on our episodes, and we had a great show a couple weeks ago with singer-songwriter Alistair Bradley, all talking about bridges, and we got a great comment on our website from our good friend of the meetup, Paul Gallagher, and about that episode. He said, just saw this pop up on Facebook and gave it a listen. Very helpful for the song I'm working on for the Mode Challenge, which, of course,
already started.
Yeah, that's the second person we've had come in and say that they've already started on the Mode Challenge, even though we haven't officially dropped it yet. But hey, go for it. Why not? I know I've been thinking about it. And we got a comment from a good friend, Mike McInnes, on the Facebook page. He said, "Know who's the king of bridges? Lionel Richie. Most of the songs on his greatest hits have bridges that are completely different from the song and could have been songs themselves. All Night Long has a bridge within a bridge." Very true. Yeah, of course, there are tons of great songs with bridges. Lionel Richie, for sure.
Indeed.
And actually, after that show, I actually had a bit of a, not really a revelation, but a bit of an examination when I released my electropop EP 2 years ago, Asymmetry. I wasn't like super conscious of it, but I was conscious of, let's make sure that each of the songs has a slightly different structure, whether it has a bridge, maybe some of them don't have a bridge, whatever. I wasn't like, trying to science it or math it or anything like that, but it was just sort of in the back of my mind. And I actually went through those songs and actually looked at them, and sure enough, 2 of the songs have only verse chorus. 2 of the songs have a verse chorus and a bridge. 2 of the songs have a verse, a pre-chorus, and a chorus. And 1 song actually has a verse, chorus, a post-chorus, and a bridge. So 4 different sections. And in some ways, that one with the 4 sections is the most kind of adventurous and interesting song. The 2 songs that only have verse, chorus, in some ways are not the most interesting songs on my album. And it's kind of interesting to see how, I feel like you kind of need at least 3 sections in any song.
It does help.
You need A, B, and a C, no matter what it is. But it was just an interesting little experiment that I ran there. And Phil, you've got something to announce?
Yeah, a little bit of. Actually, I do have a tip. Mm-hmm. When you're listening to pop songs that have charted, listen to, will have in the chorus, or in the verse, they'll have a statement, and then they'll have sort of like a break, and then the other statement. And in the break, they'll very often have little hooks and little sort of musical accompaniments that really sort of pull the ear along. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I've noticed a lot of people who have been sending me songs, they sort of don't do. Because they do the verse and the chorus, and they're concentrating on the vocals and the lyrics, but it's all those little sort of musical extras that, when added to a production, really help bring the song along. So, listen to that.
Yeah, and even if you are very lyric heavy, a little musical break gives your listener a bit of a moment to digest the lyric.
Absolutely.
So it's it's a good thing no matter where you're coming from. But you're true. It doesn't seem to happen as much as it used to.
Yeah, it's especially the songs of the 70s and 80s. The big hits always had those kinds of things. But I do have a bit of good news. Uh-huh. So I think maybe a year ago, or possibly 2 years ago, I had realized that all the files for our outro song, which is a song I've been working on, called Gotta Want To, that I had lost them all.
Yeah, you mentioned this before.
Yes, because I had I'll come up with an idea, I'll quickly open up a project and call it something, and then not pay attention to it. So I was going through my old projects on Sunday and clearing stuff out, and came across the project for Gotta Want To, and I was just kind of looking at it going, it's not a drag, because all the files are called guitar, vox, or bass. So, it's hard to find anything. But one of the track names was called Bitar, Buitar.
Okay.
So before I threw out the project, I figured, let me do a search for Bitar. And lo and behold, I found all the files.
Oh my God.
It's all back together, and it's great.
Amazing.
And I'm so happy.
That's awesome.
There's just been this sort of, every time we do the outro, there's always a bit of a kind of drop, because I thought, I just lost that stuff, and I could re-record it, but you never quite get the same spark as when you first record something.
That's awesome.
And but yeah, so I found that, so I'm very, very excited about that, and try to be more careful when you're naming your files for your projects, because
and back up and organize it well, and
yes, backup, definitely backup. If you haven't backing up now, use Backblaze, and and do it overnight, because for $5 a month, it's well worth it.
Yeah, and refer to our episode from last year of DAWs or home recording, something. I forget what it was called. It's a home recording episode. We talked about something like that. All right, and from our episode a few weeks ago with Joey Cofone, author of The Laws of Creativity. Phil, you got a little email?
Yes, we got an email from Dave Grandel. For me, creativity is an elusive concept. I find that it is the combination of my thoughts when I am left to my own devices. Work tends to get in the way, which is ironic, because creative work is work. But it's the same but different. It taps into the core of your being. It requires focus and attention. It requires solitude. My email address and the name of my publishing endeavors, Cottage Songs, comes from time spent at my parents' cottage. Without those moments of solitude, I would not be the songwriter that I am today. I want to thank you, Song Talk crew, for doing what they do as faithfully as they do it, and Joy for writing that book. And if he doesn't win it, he'll probably going to buy it. But he's entered into the contest, and hopefully Dave will be the lucky person.
Yeah. Thank you for the email, Dave. And I'm really glad that you recognize what works for you. Because everyone says, everyone's always asking, especially even on this podcast, like, how do you write songs? That's kind of our general, question. But what works for someone else, even a professional songwriter, may not be the thing that works for you. And it's really important to find out when time of day you're most creative, what environment you are the most creative.
That's very true.
Very
Now,
true.
Neil, how do people, if people want to win that book, how do they do it?
Yeah, so from that episode, the author Joey Cofone was generous enough to grant us another copy of the book that we're giving away to one of our lucky listeners. And we're asking from you is exactly what Dave did. Send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca and tell us what creativity means to you. That's a perfect example what Dave just told us, and we'll just pick one of those emails at random, and you hopefully get to be the lucky winner. So thank you for everyone who's been emailing us, and we'll probably announce that a week from now or so.
Yes, and someone will get that book. It's actually quite a decent book.
It's a really good book.
Books on creativity. It's actually quite good.
Yeah, and it's really down the songwriting angle. Even though he doesn't really talk about songwriting, it's really applicable, very much applicable. Okay, and last thing before we get to our guest tonight, a little article uncovered on social medias. Music may alter connectivity in the brain, and it's an article on technologynetworks.com, and it's just talking about yet another study they did, where they, examine, music and memory, and especially in older adults, and how it sort of helps people remember things from their past, and sort of fire some neurons and get things working again, where nothing else kind of helps. And it's really, they make personalized playlists and for the individual patients and things like that. And we'll put a link to the article in the show post as a short, so a 5-minute read article. So it's a good little reminder about how what kind of impact music can have on people's lives, and that kind of connection between memory and brain connectivity and all that cool science stuff.
And it's true, because they've often said people who've had strokes and who can't speak, or sometimes they have dementia, they can actually sing songs that they grew up with, or some can even play, who are musicians. Even though they can't do other things, they can still play their instruments, which is such a cool idea.
Yeah, which is an amazing thing. It's the power of music. It's just incredible.
Indeed.
All right. Okay. So tonight we are very happy to welcome back to Song Talk Radio, Alex Whorms. And here's a taste of her new holiday single, Christmas Morning.
Sleigh bells in the air, plate of shortbread ready by the chimney. Imagining the glare of headlights rolling down our driveway. Sitting by the roaring fire, late on Christmas Eve, in the sweater you outgrew last year and handed down to me, my heart warming Christmas.
While some artists work to master their chosen genre, and others may even manage to define one, Alex Whorms crafts music that is essentially a genre unto itself. Seated at her beloved keyboard, the young vocalist and composer flows freely and flawlessly between styles and sounds, gracefully blending classic singer-songwriter pop, jazz, soul, rock, classical, folk, and almost anything else that strikes her fancy, all while investing everything with honest tales and authentic emotions drawn from her own life and experiences. Welcome back to Song Talk Radio, Alex Whorms.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Welcome back. And the last time you were on the show was in the before times, before the pandemic. You brought your keyboard in, and we had a great episode with you. That was 2019 sometime, I think.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So I'm actually curious. Is writing a Christmas song a yearly thing for you, or is this like the first one you've done, or?
This is my first original Christmas song. So back in, part of the reason it's been so long, I think, is that in 2020 and 2021, I didn't release any original music. I released a couple of cover songs, one of which was I'll Be Home for Christmas. And I also spent most of my time film scoring. So original music, original singer-songwriter music kind of got put on pause while I wasn't out on tour. But yes, so this is the first original Christmas song I think I've ever wrote that I can remember, and the first one to be released as well.
So aside from that, then what changed within yourself to say, I'm going to write a Christmas song this year?
It happened pretty organically. What happened so honestly, the Christmas season before the pandemic for me was not the most fun time because I found, as a working musician, there are lots of holiday parties to play, so it's extremely busy. I also teach music, so it's kind of end of year stuff for my students, on top of just being busy because of shopping and family parties and things like that. So I used to find it really extraordinarily stressful. And it was a lot of work to remind myself, like, no, like, this has to be fun. Like, you have to, focus on the nice parts. Like, these are people you haven't seen for all year that you need to catch up with. So in 2020,
things got a lot
which was when I
quieter.
wrote the first draft of the song, there were no gigs.
Yeah.
So I found that, I was going into the holidays, and I, in 2020, because of what had happened, I enrolled at Humber College, and I did an online grad program in music composition. So I had school to keep me busy. And I think in December, I was finishing up my last movie score, and I was feeling pretty relaxed for once. And it kind of hit me that even though, like, so much of what I normally associated with the Christmas season would not be happening, but what I did still have was my close family in my bubble, and I still had the most important part of the season for me. So, that's kind of where my head was at the time, and I was relaxed enough to, like, for me, like, my writing process goes one of two ways. Like, there's the writing that happens from a brief, and then the writing, like, most of the songs, I try to avoid sitting down to write a song today. Like, I don't really think about songwriting that way, but it's about finding the seed of an idea. So in situations where I have a brief put in front of me to write a song, I have to find the little magical seed first, which can take some messing around and trial and error. But often the idea seed just presents itself in my head. And that's what happened with this one. I was at the piano, and I was getting ready to, I can't remember what day of the month it was, but I was getting ready to just hang out with my family. And I was wearing one of my brother's old sweaters. And then the line that we heard at the end of the clip there, at the end of the pre-chorus, sitting by the roaring fire late on Christmas Eve in the sweater you outgrew last year and handed down to me, that kind of just materialized in my brain. And I went, oh, that's a Christmas song.
Amazing.
Did you, in writing a Christmas song, because there's been a gajillion written, did you do any kind of research? Did you listen to the classics, or did you just kind of write this just as it wanted to be written?
The latter first. So I kind of, and then the research later. Because I just kind of played with it, and I went with my instincts at first, and that pre-chorus one was the first thing that came. The second thing that kind of came naturally from that was the little musical hook. This came next, and then I kind of played around. I just kind of sat. I didn't have any kind of pressure on me that day to be anywhere or to do any, like, there was nothing that urgently needed to take priority, so I let the song take priority, and I just played and improvised on it, and let it happen, and then I edited later. But now that I talk about, like, that line, I messed around with what those top three notes were going to be, and I tried it so many different ways. For something that sounds so simple and obvious, I tried so many different combinations of when the note was going to change over the 4-chord progression and whether it would change. And
but that kind of process of going through those particular notes, was there a feeling that the first few iterations of that was like, this isn't Christmassy enough?
Oh,
and I need to make it more Christmassy, or was it just
Christmassy
you just
the whole time?
like
Oh, I just, you know what? Like, it was kind of like, there wasn't a bad decision. Like, those three notes to me, this little piano thing, like, it sounded like snow in my head a little bit, and it was just, I don't even remember. I think it was more, so the top, it's E, D, C sharp, G, F sharp, E, E, D, C sharp, and then E, D, C sharp again. So I think it was just different combinations of, oh, well, do I go up to A? Do I like? I knew I wanted those little like 3 little notes to stand out at the end of each riff, and I remember trying so many different combinations, not because the first try didn't sound good, but because I'm very type A and I need to test everything and make sure that I've made the best decision.
Absolutely.
To some degree, experimentation.
That's how you do it. Yeah, you have to pay attention and go through your songs and really polish them and tweak them. You know, it's nice just to write a song and say, oh, that's good, and it's done. But especially if you want to be serious about being a songwriter, I think you have to go through it and think, okay, is that line as good as it can be? Is that as catchy as it could be? All those little things,
Mm-hmm.
So you said you had a draft of the song, and then you went into a research mode for holiday music, Christmas songs. What did you discover, and what changed after that?
Well, I can't. I listened to a whole lot of. Sorry, let me gather my thoughts here. Well, I was still in school, so I had this draft of a song, and part of the research was just listening to a lot of Christmas records. So I listened to so many, but I listened to, one of them was Ingrid Michaelson's Christmas album from, I think 28, I can't remember the year. Like other artists I look up to who made Christmas recordings, I listened to some Lila B. Alley, her recording of River, and she's recorded a lot of Christmas music. Who else did I listen to? There's a song called, there's another song called Christmas Morning by Luz, L-U-Z, that I really like. And I can't say very much kind of, it's very like a more indie pop recording, but I think I kind of thought of the vocals like, so this is more getting into production where I was listening to what instrumentations are other people using, like what kind of direction do I want to choose. And I listened to the Accent Christmas album, a cappella group. Just lots of listening and just kind of making sense of, okay, like what different possibilities are there for this? And I demoed, I was working on the first draft of this song in my second term at Humber now, because it was the new year, and I just happened to really love strings, and string arranging was one thing I wanted to work on in my program. So I actually wrote the string arrangement as an assignment at Humber that I kind of created for myself. So listening to all of these recordings, I think what I kind of took out of all of this listening I was doing was some ideas about and I went through so many iterations of the string arrangement too, some that were more complicated, and then we ended up stripping it back to the recording to make it a little more pop. But we still kind of got like a sound that I think has elements of jazz and elements of pop. And, I really wanted to go, and instead of making it super, super contemporary, I think what I really wanted to do was give it a very classic, kind of nostalgic kind of sound. And I think that's what we ended up with. Does that answer the question?
I was wondering if there was anything songwriting related in there, but it sounds like it was arrangement and
it was more production
and tone, kind of thing. Because I remember a few years ago, like last year was actually the first year in 7 years I haven't written a Christmas song, and a few years ago I did one that was a takeoff on the Mariah Carey All I Want for Christmas Is You. And I actually had the same title, All I Want for Christmas, and actually saw a YouTube where they talked about this, the special Christmas chord progression that incorporated like a flat 5 in the cadence and all this sort of stuff. And I ripped off that total thing. And then Mariah Carey used that in her song, right, all over the place. And the YouTuber was talking exactly how I did that. So I'm like, I'm going to use that in my song, even though mine's like a punk heavy metal take on that thing. I'm still going to use that chord progression and make my thing kind of Christmassy. So but yeah, I mean, and certainly, I think, in terms of the arrangement and the strings and everything, it does have that kind of nostalgic, old timey Christmas song feel. But I don't know, like for you, does it? I don't know if this is even a legitimate question. Does it sound like more like an Alex Whorms song, or does it sound like a Christmas song?
Can it not be both?
It certainly can be both, but I don't know. Like
I think both. I think it sounds, and the other thing too, like over the 2 years, 2020, 2021 of lockdown, in and out of lockdown, I spent so much time going, like I noticed you had Alistair Bradley last week. Like I've been to his song studio workshop twice in the pandemic. I did a bunch of other songwriting workshops too, and I think this song, I definitely think it sounds like me in every possible way, because, well, not only is it like back to the writing, like I didn't research anywhere for the lyric or the chords or anything, because I had so much contextual inspiration just in my memories and just in looking forward to the holidays. I had plenty of stuff to say. It's definitely me. Everything from all the words and all the piano choices and the vocal stylings as well. I wasn't trying to do any kind of acrobats with my voice. It was all just kind of meant to sound like me, and just I really wanted to sing in a way that I think communicated the sweetness and the tenderness and the way I really treasure this time of year and the time I get to spend catching up with my family and my friends. So I definitely don't feel like I needed much more than my own personal experience to write the song.
Right on. Okay.
I think the hardest thing about writing a Christmas song is actually doing the lyrics.
Yeah.
Because it's such, like, it's not a love song. It can be, but it's such a difficult thing, and it's been done so many times. But yours seems to be very fresh and new, and we've all shared that experience, but coming up with some sort of new imagery is always a struggle. So I admire anyone who tries a Christmas song.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
and go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's for me, it's always been hard. It's been easy to be cynical about Christmas, but it's hard to be earnest and honest without being saccharine. That's really the challenge. if you want to be negative, that's no problem.
Yeah. Well, and I would agree with you on that, because, like, as I mentioned before, like, I used to just find this time of year very frustrating. So, and maybe that's another thing. Like, even if I had wanted to, I don't know if I could have genuinely dug down and found the nice feelings to pull from in previous years. And some of the things you mentioned, I wrote another Christmas song this year, so maybe we'll release that next year. I don't know, but there are definitely a lot of tropes. There are a lot of keywords that pop up, in a lot of Christmas music. So I think they talk, the sleigh bells, the snow, the presents, the bustle, the Christmas, the Santa. There's definitely a lot of stock. I think that people, that honestly I think is helpful if you're stuck on something. But I think my hot take on how do you not have your song come out sounding stock is, like, if you can find some kind of personal connection to what your song is about. And that, I think that goes for, you could say the same thing for breakup songs, for motivational songs, for any songs about any subject, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I don't know.
I guess with a lot of Christmas music, cliches and things are rampant in a way they aren't in many other
Yeah.
types of songs. In any case, that's my impression. But okay, so why don't we take a listen to the full song, "Christmas Morning" by Alex Whorms.
Sleigh bells in the air, plate of shortbread ready by the chimney. Imagining the glare of headlights rolling down our driveway. Sitting by the roaring fire, late on Christmas Eve, in the sweater you outgrew last year and handed down to me. My heart warming, Christmas spirit showing. There's no joy like the feeling when I see you Christmas morning. Like little kids who scribble down their lists on construction paper. Hang the tinsel on the tree, climb on Santa's knee at the town square. Smell the crisp air, join the fanfare in the shops along the street. I hear the music of our laughter, and it feels like home to me. My heart warming, Christmas spirit showing. There's no joy like the feeling when I see you Christmas morning. Look outside, it's snowing, with eyes alight and glowing, and I'm alright just knowing you will be here Christmas morning. Now I've got a job out of town, and you're across the country, but when the holidays come around, it feels like time won't change a thing. Time won't change a thing. My heart warming, Christmas spirit showing. There's no joy like the feeling when I see you Christmas morning. Look outside, it's snowing, with eyes alight and glowing, and I'm alright just knowing you will be here Christmas morning.
Lovely.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Is the chord progression in the verse and the chorus the same?
Let me see. No,
No?
slightly different.
It is pretty close.
It's pretty close, yeah. Actually, I thought a question like this might come up, so I've got the chart on my other monitor over here. Yeah, it's so the verse is D, and then G over D, and then D, and then G over D again. 8 bars of each. Then the pre-chorus does something different. The chorus
goes somewhere else for sure.
Yeah, the harmonic. So the verses, the harmony lasts for 2 bars each. In the choruses, it changes every bar, and we have D, G over D, B minor, A.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
It's close though. It is very
It
similar.
It starts the same, but it's
on the
also
tonic.
it's also double the tempo, so to speak,
Exactly.
double the time. Interesting.
Yeah, so it gives it a nice lift, you know.
Well, the melody is what gives it the lift in the chorus, because your verse is very blah, 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 but then it just takes off in the pre-chorus, and in the chorus. It's really quite interesting. I find it really cool. I don't know if it's cool, but I'll call it cool. Like when you start out, because your melody is pretty limited, sleigh bells in the air, play of shortbread right in the chimney, and your piano, you're not emphasizing the downbeat. So the first verse is kind of floaty. It's kind of this, if you want to go back to your snow analogy, it's like the snow is just kind of lightly falling and maybe the wind's blowing it a little bit, and it's not really grounded as such. It's not until you get into the pre-chorus where the bass comes in and really starts to ground it, and the melody is able to take off a little bit more from there, and then kind of continue that way. And the chorus is kind of the same way. But I found that really, really intriguing how, the melody starting after the downbeat, the piano part starting after the downbeat, you don't really know where it's falling until you get deeper into the song.
I like one of the nice original images is, and kind of unusual in a Christmas song, but of course it works, is imagining the glare of headlights rolling down our driveway. But in the winter you'd sort of understand that, which I thought it's nice. It's an original image in a Christmas song that's that doesn't sound out of place, It's a small thing, but I really enjoyed that. When I first heard the song, I remember thinking, wow, those are really great strings. Because I've been going through a thing where I've been, trying to replicate a whole bunch of old Motown stuff, and they always had, 3 or 6 string players. And of course, their string arrangements were fantastic. So I've been listening to those, and it's great to hear that you did those. I was going to ask you, who did your strings, but it was you.
Well, I didn't play them though.
No, you didn't play them.
Yeah, but yes, thank you.
So you arranged them on your computer.
Yes.
And then got real players to play it for the studio recording. Perfect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
That is Drew Jerica's Venuti String Quartet, and that was fun. I got to watch the recording session and chat with them about things like over Zoom while they were recording. Wow. Oh, and they play so beautifully. Like that was the best Zoom meeting ever.
Too bad you weren't there in person.
No, that's just how they do it. But it worked. It was fun. I just sat here and I just tried to keep my jaw attached to my face, and that's how that happened.
I really like the first pre-chorus, sitting by the roaring fire late. But it's the genesis of the song, like you said, in the sweater you outgrew last year and handed down to me. It's a wonderful phrase, just sort of mechanically, but it's also a great little detail and idea, and I feel like the rest of the song doesn't get to that level of personal thing again, because then you're kind of talking about Santa's knee and you're off, and the bridge is kind of interesting. Now I've got a job and you're across the country when the holidays come around. That sort of sounds a little more personal. But the rest of it is very sweet, and it is very kind of, I would say universal, but it is very open to everybody's Christmas experience.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of going for, and yeah, you're right. It was tough writing a second pre-chorus because I knew it had to change. I know some people copy and paste lyrics. I didn't feel right about singing the same pre-chorus twice for this particular song. But yeah, I agree. It was kind of like that line. It just felt so good, and I think I was thinking about my brother at the time. He was still, we were he was still in university at the time, so I kind of in real life, he isn't across the country, but he just went to Waterloo. But I think, you know, this thing that I'm singing about in the song, like it's specifically like coming back home for Christmas as adult children. And I think that is, and thinking about how some of the magic that we felt when we were younger, you know, is still there this time of year. And I think that is a sentiment that a lot of families who have kids who grow up, go away to school, go away to work or whatever, and then come back. Like I was excited because I think a lot of people have a similar experience, and that hopefully they'll hear the song and see themselves reflected in it as well.
Yeah, I think
a nice little detail is the rhyme structure in your chorus is much tighter than it is in the verse, which is a nice way of bringing contrast between the two.
And bringing energy to the chorus.
Yes, showing, morning, glowing, knowing, morning. You know, it's even though two of them are soft, but it's a wonderful little detail to kind of bring some contrast and some lift to a chorus. You know, and just as opposed to having the same rhyme approach all through.
Yeah,
it's nice to sort of change those up.
And it's cool. Your first chorus is shorter than the subsequent choruses, which I hadn't noticed the first time I listened to it, but
I always love that. I think that's such a great technique.
Yeah. And, you know, with that technique, with, you know, half chorus, first chorus, and then like doing a full chorus the second time, it's interesting how, like, depending on the production, I think, and the style that you take the song in the studio really influences whether that's a good choice to make or not. Because I'm working on another EP right now that's almost done tracking, and there are songs on this that I wrote on the piano where I did that half chorus move the first time, but then when we dressed it up with a band and more, it works really, really well, I find, in my limited experience on stuff that's piano driven, more singer-songwriter-y. But in other styles, you just need every chorus to be the same. But in this case, I think the nice thing about it is that the first chorus leaves space for me to add more to the story later in the second chorus. This is so cool, like, you know, and those tighter rhymes in the chorus, again, looking at it now, it seems so simple and natural, and they all rhyme. Do you know how many times I changed the order of those words? I had so many other words that were, like, you know, rhymed better and worse, and like that was like laborious, like trying all these different combinations, and it was just But I definitely landed on something like with that chorus too, like there was a lot of tweaking, and one thing that kind of came out in workshopping was like, why don't you put, I think this was Blair Packham, he went, why don't you put the title in the last line of the chorus too? And then it made the song way better. Like, so there was just I was thinking about, like, that last line wasn't always, you will be here Christmas morning. That line was somewhere else. So it was a whole lot of just rearranging and trying different things. And I'm I had my rhyming dictionary and so many different options.
Yeah, and it also works because the two instances of Christmas morning in the chorus are, one of them's recontextualized. Else, when I see you Christmas morning, and then you will be here Christmas morning. I mean, they're not miles apart, but they're still different enough that it sort of recontextualizes it, which is really cool. Yeah. Yeah,
and of course, it's always important to think about, you know, what people are going to call a song, and you want to be conscious of, you know, your title. Because someone might just hear this once on the radio and they're going to go, oh, I love that song. And they may not catch your name, but they're just going to go, oh, what was that song? Something about Christmas morning. And they'll put that in, and, you know, which is my only gripe with the the brilliant Serena writer's brilliant song "Calling to Say," because the chorus is actually "Merry Christmas, Baby," but of course there's 5 million songs called "Merry Christmas, Baby." I understand that, but it took me a long time before I found out who it was, because I just heard this great song, you know. So
Yeah.
I want to point out one other thing, because this is something I went through. I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago when we wrote a holiday song. I took it to the meetup, and again, I did the same thing as you did, Alex. It sounded like one of my songs. It didn't sound. There was no sleigh bells in it. There was no like Christmassy stuff in it. And the first verse did not suggest Christmas at all, or holidays, or snow, or anything like that. And people in the meetup were encouraging me, because it didn't sound like a Christmas song. Maybe you want to inject something in the lyrics that suggests that this is a holiday song, and this is exactly what you did, because you make it sound like an Alex Whorms song. It's an indie pop piano thing, whatever. And your opening lyric is "sleigh bells in the air." Well, you know right off the bat, even if you don't know the title, as soon as you hit that and play the shortbread, you know right off the top that this is a holiday song. But it's an Alex Whorms holiday song.
That was
That's an interesting point, because, you know, the first line you mentioned, "River," by Joni Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the first line is "It's coming on Christmas."
Yeah.
But, you know, everyone sort of assumes it's kind of a Christmas song. I don't know if it really is. But everyone calls it a Christmas song, but I don't know.
I feel like it is.
I think it is.
Wasn't it about her missing Canadian Christmas when she was in the States or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I guess it depends on what your criteria for a Christmas song are, because, you know, if she hadn't mentioned it being Christmas at the time, like, she still would have had a beautiful song about missing people, missing somebody. But I feel like once Christmas is mentioned, I don't know. I would say yes, but again, depends on what your criteria for Christmas music is.
Of course, the opening chords for "River" also pretty clearly indicate it's a Christmas song. You know,
yeah, exactly.
You know.
I've performed that many times. I love "River" so much, and
what a masterpiece of a song! Just
It's a great song.
if you're wanting to write a Christmas song, pull that song apart and just see how she uses the da 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 da, which suggests a famous Christmas song, but then pulls it into another chord. It's just a masterpiece from top to bottom.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
I think she'll do well.
Yeah, she'll do all right. We've all heard of her. I mean, you know.
I think so.
Okie dokie. So hopefully you can come on again next year with your next holiday song.
I would love to. I hope
So I'm sure a lot of people who are thinking about doing a holiday song, and you've written this and you've gotten it out there. What were your steps to actually get this out in front of people?
Contacted the producer I wanted to work with, Mark Lalama, who also produced my EP Burgundy, and into the studio, recorded the instruments one by one. We took that kind of layering approach. Previous to this, I had gotten some funding from the city of Hamilton to help me do this at all. And then mixing, mastering. Pulled out some old photos from my family Christmas album to use as the album art.
Nice.
Upload to the digital streaming services, talk to a publicist, and away it goes.
That's right. We did get an email from Carrie about.
Oh yeah.
And I emailed her back. I'm like, we already booked her.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been kind of doing my own PR for a long time, so sometimes I kind of jump the gun a little bit, and or people who I've been friends with, to like reach out before any of us can do anything, and so
Yeah.
It's all really helpful though.
I mean, DIY is a big thing nowadays, but sometimes you can't do it all.
No, you definitely, it kind of there. I think, the other thing with releasing a song is, again, like, there's so much that you can do to promote a song, and it's about choosing what is the, like, being well aware of how much time you have and what is the most important out of everything you can do, because you'll never, you can't do everything on every song. And I, for some reason, decided to also be recording an EP while promoting this song. So that's been a lot. So having the help of a publicist was really important to me for this time around, for sure.
Yeah, right on. Okie dokie. Yeah. Okay, well, I think I'm hearing the band, so that is all the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to Alex Whorms. Great to have you on the show again. And where can our listeners hear more of your music?
You can go to alexwhorms.com, or you can find me, Alex Whorms, WHORMS, on any music streaming service or social media site.
Awesome. Great. And we want to hear from you, our listeners, so please send us your comments, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Song Talk Radio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. And once again, please send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Tell us what creativity means to you if you want to win a copy of The Laws of Creativity. And also be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter. And you can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on our resources page at songtalk.ca. And wherever you are in the world, please join us online via Zoom at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Bring a song and a lyric sheet and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil.
PhilEmery.ca.
And Alex, what's your go-to social media platform?
Instagram, for sure.
Instagram, okay. Follow Alex Whorms on Instagram. And thanks for listening. Be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows, find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and keep on writing.
Good night.
Happy holidays.
Oh, yes.